Well, g'day. Here's me face. As another famous Aussie once said, more than once. So anyway, uh, a lot of water's passed under the bridge. A lot of water's passed under the bridges. There's been a lot of floods. There's been a lot of change. A lot of things have been going on lately. And tonight is Good Friday Eve. Probably somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock, I imagine. And anyway, today I saw something. I think it could be analogous to a life lesson. And should I? Why not? I'll just tell what happened, the experience. I've got a lot going on here at the moment. Like, more than I'm prepared to tell publicly, but nothing bad. It's all good. But it's just big changes are going on. And so a big floods, like big floods, like 100-year floods that were bigger than the ones 5 years ago, which were the biggest ones in 100 years. So, go figure the 100-year figure. Figure that out. Anyway, a lot of people like to figure stuff with figures, but it doesn't figure. So, we'll just keep that the figure with the So anyway, I'm up at the crack of... I don't even know anyone called Aussie sense of humour. It's not good. Okay. So I'm up really early this morning and it's still dark, and I'm just thinking about getting up, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and I'll admit that publicly. I looked at it and no. I cannot work today. I cannot. I have too much work to do. So I cannot work for employment for the people that employ me. But I felt a little bit guilty. I let it ring out and I thought, okay, if they ring 3 times in a row, they obviously really need me. So I'll probably answer on the 3rd ring. Thank goodness they didn't ring again. So, get up, make me coffee, do me business and stuff that you do, and nearly finished my coffee, and the phone rings again. And this time it's a different number, but it's obviously a work-related one, and oops, all of a sudden I was really busy somewhere else away from my phone. That was my excuse anyway, and I'd probably get back to it in 10 or 15 minutes and say, oh, sorry, I was away from my phone, I was out vacuuming the lawn or something, just whatever excuse I could find that you do in the pouring down rain at 6 in the morning. And it didn't ring back again, so I was like, okay, I'll just let that one slide, And then, I don't know, an hour later, if that, another phone call. I did say if it rang 3 times, I'd answer it, so I answered it, and so I had to go to work. And anyway, long story short, let's make a short story long, why don't we? Because we've already started. We better put some beer down our throat to make it work. So, Stong Shori Lort. What? So I'm at work, right? And for those of you who don't know, it's a hard job being a traffic controller. You stand there all day with a stop and go sign and you say, receive your last, sending your traffic. And then you send your traffic and you call your last one. And then you wait 5 minutes and the other person goes, receive your last, send it back and say, yep, you clear to send. And then they call their last one and then you say, yep, copy your last, whatever it was, wait 5 minutes. on this particular job because it was a highway job, but it's like a country sort of highway. So you get a lot of traffic, but it was a long work site. And anyway, it was one of those days where it looked a bit like it's gonna rain, looked a bit like it's gonna be sunny, did a bit of both, had a bit of wind, a few sprinkles of rain, but mostly it was okay. It was comfortable, the wind was a little bit coolish, but anyway, after a couple of hours or so, I saw this ant on the road. And it wasn't just an ordinary ant, it was a good sized one. It was like, it wasn't your big bull ant, it wasn't your little green ant, or your, I shouldn't say big green ant, or your tiny little green ant, your little black ant. It was a medium sized type bull ant. From what I could tell, I'm pretty sure it was, because this thing was strong. It was a bull ant. One of those ants that's not going to take shit, if you know what I mean. Because, I kid you not, this thing, this tiny little amazing miracle of nature thing, this ant, he had on his back, and that's the only reason I've seen him, something about yay long, which from my estimate was something that was damaged by possibly being hit by a car. It was the wing of some other insect, possibly a dragonfly, possibly a cicada. It had enough length on it to be 3 to 4 times the length of this little ant, and most of its wing stuff, that plasticky looking chitinous stuff that makes up its wing content, was mostly all smashed off. So it was like a bit of a stem with a bit of a fan on the end. Kind of looked a bit like, I don't know, if you walk past shops, they sometimes put those signs out and they just got like the little flag thing on it, so it can sort of wave around a little bit. Looked a little bit like one of those. And here's this little ant, right, trying to drag it across the road. And the wind was just coming up in little puffs. And every time it took about 2 or 3 steps, the wind would blow him back about 10. And so he'd come running forward again, and the wind would just pick him up. And so he's going further and further backwards. And, when you're just standing there with a stop sign and not much else to look at, I looked at it rather curiously. I thought, you're a brave little tucker. And I thought, this is going to be really curious to watch as he tries to cross the road with this bit of wing. It was acting like a wind sail, I was going to say, but what do those kite surfers use? They use kite surfs. Not the kite ones, the wind surfers. The wind surfers use this thing. Believe it or not, they call it a wind surfer. So a wind surfer uses a wind surfer. We used to call them wind wankers, but we were young and naive surfers back in those days when we called them wind wankers. But anyway, this little ant was being a bit of a wind wanker because he didn't realise he was carrying way too big of a load for him in those current conditions. But it didn't stop him. And this is what I really admired about him. I thought, this is a life lesson here. I am learning something from this. This ant persevered. Every time it got knocked back, eventually there was enough of a lull in the wind that he could walk and get a bit further. And then before you knew it, there's a really nice lull just when I'm holding all my traffic too, mind you, so that he actually got to the middle of the road. And it's got 2 double lines, we call it, double white lines, because we're not racist here in Australia at all. They used to be yellow, but I guess somebody didn't like yellow, so now they're all white. So we got double white lines, and when he got to that, I was like cheering him on. I'm like, well done. That was a huge effort, because honestly, the amount of times he'd sometimes even get a foot across, picked up by the wind and blown across, tumbled, but he was doing it. He persevered, and I'm like, yes. And then the traffic's coming down the other way. I go, okay, now things are going to get interesting. Okay, motorbike, they sort of hold the middle line quite a bit. And I'm thinking, oh, watch out, little ant, those motorbikes. But nah, all good. And then the next thing, this ant is making a little bit more progress. Here comes this big four-wheel drive caravan on the back, and bam, flattens the little fucker. Front wheels, back wheels, that caravan, the lot. Just completely annihilated him. So all that effort that he went to try and provide for his tribe or his flock, or whatever ants call themselves, was all for nothing. And that's today's life lesson. Sometimes you can struggle against all adversity, and at the end of the day, what? All for nothing. But hey, life goes on for the rest of us, and I really admired the way that ant just worked for nothing. Like he was on a mission. He was going to bring home the bacon to that colony of ants, and he never got there. And it's kind of sad. So, made me think, why would you bother worrying about the colony of ants? He could have taken that giant chicken wing, stayed on that side of the road, and had a feast. And nobody would have known. Or maybe they would have smelt it on him. Ants are pretty good like that. Like, I wondered how he kept finding back his path, his track. Because I know ants use their antennae and their feelers and their sensors and stuff to know the path that they came from. But if you take an ant off its path, then it's often lost forever. But the wind kept picking this one up, throwing him down the track a bit, and he picked up his path. He did not falter. He got back on track. Kind of reminds me of somebody I know. I don't falter. I keep getting back on track. An awful lot. Anyway, happy Easter.